We talked with Wes Weeks, I guess a week or two ago, and he mentioned just the vote of confidence he felt like he was getting from the coaching staff in terms of you guys didn't add anything in the portal at the linebacker spot. Can you just talk about the development and kind of going back? I mean, why did you guys not want to add, and what do you see in that room?
Yeah, I mean, we felt really confident that that was a position that we had young players that we were really excited about, and veteran players. We addressed it in recruiting as well. So, when you're making those decisions, and again, it's, adding depth to your team, sometimes is not about, painting with a broad brush where you can cover every position. We felt that that was one position that had veteran leadership and had young guys coming. Like, obviously, our situation where we played a freshman linebacker, we had a veteran player there in Weeks, West Weeks, that we kind of shut down so we could preserve another year for him. And obviously with, Witt being injured and Harold being injured, you're adding, to the mix of that linebacking core. So I think it really was about playing freshmen, him and Tylen getting a bit of a look too. Having two players that we think are premier players in Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins, and then having, a veteran like Wes really gave us the balance that we didn't think we needed to get into the portal.
Hey, Coach Ryder-Mill, it's going to be a two-part just on Destin Hill. First off, what attracted y'all to want to bring him in after he had an injury last season, and what does he need to do to kind of separate himself? Because out of some of the rooms you have, the wide receiving room is absolutely stacked, so it's going to be it's going to be hard to get playing time this year.
I think first of all, we were well aware of him, and in particular, Coach Wilson was well aware of him in terms of what he accomplished at Edna Carr. I remember I came in and we really didn't have enough time to get into the recruiting process. We were kind of late with him, and so this was always something that I felt like if he was interested in transferring, we were going to be receptive. So that was able to come to fruition. We've had great success with Bryce Brown's players from Edna Carr. So adding another quality player to that position that's from the state of Louisiana, that didn't seem to be a hard one for me to solve. Now, as it relates to the depth in the room, I think what's important to understand is each one of them brings something different to the table. He's got good size and he's got physicality. I think he's got to continue to use that as he continues to learn the offense. Once he's comfortable within the offensive structure, he's got the skills to be a very productive SEC player. But early, he is physical, can help us in that perspective. And, again, another guy that's coming off of a knee injury that I think is only going to be better.
Brian, just with the run game, what is it that y'all identified as maybe the issues were last year, and what are you working on to improve that element of the offense this season?
Well, I think there was a couple of things. We were playing young backs that were learning. Josh certainly was a veteran for us, but Emery went down with the knee in camp. And Josh became, he couldn't be the only guy. So we had to play some younger players, and they were learning. From an offensive line standpoint, we had, I think more than anything else, the opportunity to be successful there. But it's about committing to it. And I think there's just much more of a commitment to it in everything that we're doing, from Alex, who is the run game coordinator, to Coach Sloan, seeing the importance of what we need to be physical up front. I think it's just a mindset that we lacked at times last year that we've really worked hard at building in January.
Hey, Coach, just want to ask you about your two coordinators. Blake obviously entering his second year, and Joe's been with you for a long time, but this will be his second year doing it full time. Do they have more comfort and confidence in what they're doing and what they're working with going into year two?
Well, again, I think all coaches are always looking to, better themselves relative to experience. But the roster obviously makes a difference too. I think there's tools when you have a returning quarterback for Joe, depth at the wide receiver position, and again, putting together an offensive line that can, do the job up front. I think more than anything else is that as they go into year two, they went through a year of understanding what our weaknesses were and what we need to be better at. And I think that's a great place to be going into year two, is that let's address some of the areas that we weren't as good as we needed to be. And so that's been their mindset, and I think they've addressed it quite well. We've done it with the roster, we've done it with scheme, we've done it with technique work, adding coaches to both sides of the ball. I think all of those together puts us in a better position.
Hey, Coach, over here. Joel Rogers took a lot of reps with the first team. What have you seen from him this spring, and how much has he grown since last fall?
Yeah, I mean, he's making great progress, and he's in a battle there, right? I mean, Deshaun has a muscle injury. It's a soft tissue injury, so we were being careful with him today. So that's why you saw a lot more of those guys. But it's a great opportunity when you get your opportunity, go out and make plays. And he's really smart. I mean, great football awareness. He's got toughness, and he brings that every snap. So, yeah, really pleased with his progress, and we continue to see the things we need from him.
Coach, you brought in Braylon Moore, but as DJ Chester saying, not so fast at that spot.
Well, it's competitive. We brought in Josh Thompson, and everyone else is saying not so fast either. So, there's competitive battles throughout that entire front. And as I kind of mentioned last time I was with you, we had another rotation in there today. And so, look, I know our guys feel the competition, and I think when you create that kind of competition, it only brings out the best in you. It's going to bring out the best in DJ. It's going to bring out the best in Paul, Tyree, Weston. All of those guys are in a position where nothing's taken for granted. There's not like this. There's no Will Campbell out there, right? Where there's no question about who your starting left tackle is. They got to make progress every day. And so this is just a different year. And in this year, there's going to be intense competition for those 5 positions all year. And it's not going to get to a certain date and go, well, there's no competition anymore. We have more than 5 guys that can play in the SEC up there. So the pressure will be on each and every week.
Coach Gabe Relaford kind of showing a lot of flashes early in this spring. I guess, what do you think is the big thing for him developmental-wise, and what you've seen from him, not just stopping the run, but even getting in there and having a sack a couple times today?
Yeah, Gabe's a kid that plays with a lot of confidence. Obviously his physicality is a little bit different than the other ends that we have. His size, So when you're talking about him, he's a different profile than some of the other ends and the edges that we have. So I think what we've asked him to do is be really physical in the run game and be assignment correct. There were times where, playing a freshman, you kind of go, well, he's learning. He's past the learning stage. And so what we're looking for is a consistent performance, play in and play out, and somebody that's really, really good against the run. And very capable when we cut him loose to get to the quarterback. But I would say that his size, his physicality, his second year in the program, the margin for us in terms of what we want to see is somebody that is just really an anchor against the run.
Coach, we hadn't talked about special teams, new snapper, punting battle, a lot of guys in the return game. If you could just kind of give us a general overview of what special teams has looked like so far first 2 weeks.
A lot of work. We've more than doubled the time and investment in our special teams. Aman Anand has done a great job of organizing a number of the drills, as you may or may not have seen, we're not running a lot of full 11 on 11. It's much more skill development work, which has a carryover to your position as well. But we've spent a ton of time, which has allowed our special teams coaches to really focus on the long snappers, the holders, the punters, the kickers, and their mechanics. So it's really been so much more technical work for us relative to special teams than putting 11 guys out there. And that's been deliberate. And that is because I believe that we have some difference makers. And let's block for them, and let's pressure the punter. Let's do the things that elite special teams do. And you got to start somewhere. And the best place to start is in the spring with a lot of that technical work so it carries over going into preseason camp.
What's been your impression of Bauer Sharp so far? It seems like y'all are able to do a lot of different things with him.
Well, I think it starts with just his mindset and the way he fits into the program. You know, he just has leadership qualities. He's got the things that we're looking for in terms of living to the standards on a day-to-day basis. I mean, he is driving others as well, and he just stepped into the program. So I would talk more about how he's influenced our team in a very short period of time off the field in this building as much as what he's done on the field. You guys have seen what he's done. He's a talented pass catcher. He's tough. He's physical. He's going to make plays for us. And what a great compliment to Tradez. Those two can really feed off of each other. But again, I think what I would do is I would double down on his influence in the program as it relates to leadership, discipline, accountability. He's here to win a championship.
Coach, you mentioned John Emery a while ago. He apparently is going to play a seventh year. It was kind of unclear if that's going to be here or somewhere else. Have y'all been in contact with him?
No,
Have any idea?
we haven't talked to John about it. It was the first that we heard. We love John, but sometimes, you know, things happen and, you know, we don't know where it came from. But we'll be supportive in any way that we can. But we're set where we're at in terms of the running back position. But love John, and we'll be here to help and support him. And if he's given the seventh year, he's certainly a young man that can help somebody in the Power of Four.
Hey, Coach, over here, you know, you talked a little bit about Gabe Relaford, but it seems like the whole defensive line, both the interior and also on the edge, there's a lot of depth, but also there's a lot of size. Can you talk about that?
Well, again, it's intentional. Other than Sadir Mitchell can't catch punts, which I kind of thought he couldn't, because I didn't want to give up that period of work. So I picked the less likely guy to handle that punt. But I bring him up because that's not why he was brought here. He was brought here to bring size to our defense, and he certainly brings that size. Sean Washington is playing at a higher level. His size is clear in terms of what he brings. Obviously, McKinley is got the great size that you're looking for inside as well. And then it's just a matter of getting reps for some of the younger players. You know, Zion's just got to get more work and build a higher work volume. But we've definitely increased our size. You know, Jacobian is going to be back for us. That gives us another very physically strong player that will fit this scheme very well because of his quickness. He's going to be a guy that's going to be in the backfield a lot. So with Ahmad, you know, we feel really, really good about where we're at the defensive tackle position.
Kind of going off of that, what have you seen from Patrick Payton, Piber, and Butler? Have they been as advertised, and how they've been adjusting?
Yeah, I mean, they as well, and I mentioned, you know, we talked about Bauer Sharp. Those guys have been great program players as well. On time, accountable, pushing others. It's been and I said this before, it's been really fun to watch these guys really just melt into the current culture and standards. And, I could talk as much about what they do, on a day-to-day basis in the program. But on the field, all of those guys are going to be playing for us and getting meaningful reps and help us. So as advertised, probably more than advertised, because you really don't know how their personalities will play out. And all three of them have different personalities, but impact our program.
We talked with the players, and I think every one of them had mentioned that they feel like the practices are more professional in the way that they're kind of, oriented and running. You kind of mentioned with the special teams, it's very much skill-based. Is that a shift for you with some new coaches that have brought in new ideas, or is that really kind of been your philosophy the whole time?
I think we're at that point where we don't have to rush to, win the 7-on-7 drill or win 11-on-11. This is so much more about the technical preparation of our team. Now, tactically, we'll come together because you do, you run 11-on-11, you run those units, and so they've got to be 1/11th of that group. But this focus has been much more about, in terms of their overall preparation, it's been trust your teaching so that when it's time to go, you can just let it go. And so I think the practices I've set up have been much more focused on you worry about your job and being technically sound. And it's time to play, let it go. You don't have to think about it. And that's kind of been the onus on the coaches as well, is to let's get this to the point where we're so good on special teams that technically we're impossible to defend in so many areas. Same thing with the offense and defense, and I think that they've done a pretty good job so far. I will give you one news item. We've decided to move 2 practices, the 28th, next Friday, and then when we get back from spring break on April 7th, we're going to move both of those practices to the following week after our spring scrimmage. So we'll continue to practice that Tuesday and Thursday after that spring scrimmage that we have. So elongating, taking more time with the team, taking all of our I guess you would say, maximum allotted time of 34 days to get those practices in.
Is there a reason for making the change right now?
Well, is it? The portal opens that week? Huh. I didn't know that. You guys can decide what that means. But for us, it was, we're going on spring break that Friday. And I didn't want a distracted group on that Friday. And then we come back, and we had 4 practices in that final week, thinking that we were going to be in a game mode situation. So let's have 4 practices like we would during the year. But we're not in that mode, so we'll take that Monday away, which, same old deal. Who really thinks they're going to be their best coming out of spring break on that Monday? So now we recoup those 2 days on the back end and have 2 really solid practice days the following week.